joining with me tonight will be B. Fernandez, our Program Manager for Parent Outreach and Engagement, Elnita Shannon, and Allison Rowland to give an update. It's a follow-up to our December 8th report where we presented to the Board on Parent and Community Engagement, and this is directly related to our LCAP Goal 5. And as you know, each month we do an LCAP update, and specifically our LCAP is the way that we make and keep promises to our community about what matters most to our work. And LCAP Goal 5 is, I guess they're all near and dear to our heart, but specifically LCAP Goal 5 is the one about parent and community members, and our goal is for parent and community members to be engaged and work within and across schools to support student learning. We have a vision for neighborhood schools that are highly regarded for their quality as well as their service as centers for extended learning and enrichment opportunities in academic and social services. Inside LCAP Goal 5, there are about 9 actions and services that we committed to in order to accomplish this goal about parent, family, and community engagement. And so these updates are intended to show how we plan to accomplish this work, and what you'll hear tonight is the framework that's been created through this year's worth of work, and the framework is about a systemic commitment to family and community engagement. And I'm happy to have Bea and Elnita with us here tonight to walk us through what that framework and what the vision is to build the right conditions for all of our families, each and every family, like each and every student, to be fully engaged in their child's education.
Thank you, Superintendent Martin. On December the 8th, you heard a presentation on the LCAP Goal 5, and you learned about the benefits for students, families, and schools. You were also introduced to design thinking, an approach to solving complex problems that begins with listening deeply to families and to learn from them what they have to say, what they need and want, what they like and they don't like. This presentation will introduce to you the framework for systemic family and community engagement, with the overarching goal of building the conditions to empower each and every family to support their students' learning. The presentation focuses on a new framework, reorganizing family and community engagement as a priority across all district schools. It's about building the capacity of schools and families by adding a system of supports. It's about partnering with community organizations and utilizing their experience in the neighborhoods and building on that. And also about realigning the existing resources in our department to better serve all schools across the district. I want to make a real important comment about community organizations, because we've learned a lot this year in working with the Crawford cluster and also working with the Madison cluster. It's the value of really reaching out and knowing what types of groups are in our communities, bringing them on board and working together to improve the education of children. I'm really proud to say that I was also, as a board president, Macquarie, I was also at Day at the Bay with staff there, promoting family engagement anytime that we can get. And we would not have been part of that group if it hadn't been for the work that we've done with the Madison cluster and Mike Snyder from the community. So I want to acknowledge Mike for your good work and bringing us on board and working with your cluster. And of course, I would also be remiss if I did not mention the work that we have done this year with the Crawford cluster and with, say, San Diego, and Dan is in the back over there, and Dan, again, we would not have done such great work in that cluster if again, it wasn't for reaching out with community organizations. And I think you'll see that in this... I think you'll see that in this framework, it's really not about working by ourselves, but really working as a team. Everything that we do is to make sure that our students will graduate from high school and be successful in life. That is the ultimate goal as we prepare our kids. There are several forms of family engagement, and so I'd like to highlight 3 of the tiers. In the top tier, you see that some families take on leadership roles. We know that this is a small percentage of parents that sit in our school teams to help us make our schools more effective. And we have several of those parent leaders here today that remind me all the time about how important it is for us to train our families to assume leadership roles. The second tier is about many families engaged in school events and learning. This is parent workshops, it's coming to school events, parent-teacher conferences, but again, the key word there is many parents. So while we need all families to be involved at each level, if you look at the bottom tier, our foundation for the framework will be on empowering all families to support their students' learning at home and in the community. We will look at our current strengths to develop new approaches to reach each and every family. This does not mean that every school, family will need the same type of supports. We know that in this district we vary from one end to the other. The framework provides the flexibility for each cluster or school to identify where they will begin with the implementation of the framework. It is a district priority for us to utilize the power of family engagement as a strategy to improve student achievement and performance. For the past 3 months, Elnita Shannon, manager of the Ballard Parent Center, Allison Rowland, doctoral resident from Harvard University, sitting right behind me, right here, and I have been working on the framework. We have identified 4 starting points that we call dimensions for systemic family and community engagement, which will drive the vision and support for family engagement at district level clusters at schools. This is not a pie chart where you begin in one corner and you work your way around. It is really meant to be utilized by each school or cluster depending on where they believe that their starting point will be at. And I believe that's the beauty of having a framework that is flexible to meet the very needs of our different schools across the district. Since January, Elnita, Allison, and I have conducted additional design thinking trainings aside from the big one that we had in September at the Crawford clusters. At Taft Middle School, we trained 90 parents, students, and staff, including school teams from 12 schools from every single level, elementary, middle school, and high school. What did we learn as facilitators? That this process helps educators, families, and community identify family engagement needs. It's by listening to their voices that we begin to build trust and relationships, and that we take action together to implement solutions to make our schools that much better. In the first dimension is utilizing design thinking to build trust and take action together. It's about building empathy and understanding by educators open up to partnering with families and communities in more effective ways and differently than they've ever done before. We have seen this as a result of the work we've done the last couple of months. It provides for collaboration among all the stakeholders to solve very specific challenges and again work together and take action on these to work on better solutions. The process also includes a designated team that will take this action. It could be a team that already exists at the school, it can be a new team, but it's definitely going to bring together staff, parents, and community members. And we cannot forget our students because they did a beautiful job at Taft Middle School in helping us with design thinking. But again, the key is that this process identifies priorities, which in turn are action items for improvement. And the last one thing that we've also noticed is that through this process, it really energizes and motivates staff and parents and community to come together and work in improving our schools. In fact, Allison conducted a study of educators 10 weeks after the Crawford Cluster Design Thinking event. And what she found was that even 10 weeks after the process, that staff had actually changed their practice, that they felt much more comfortable and better equipped to work with families, and they actually felt more connected to their students and the families. That is really the beauty of implementing this process with our schools. And I'm going to turn it over to Elnita.
Okay, thank you, Bea. So this slide that you're looking at is talking about empowering families and schools with our high-impact home strategies. And at this point, I just wanted to introduce this slide to you. I'm going to ask you to get back to it later with a little bit more detail. So, the high-impact home strategies. And before I talk about them, I do want to emphasize that the strategies that I'm going to present are research-based strategies, and in particular, the work of Dr. Nell Duke out of University of Michigan. Her work she has done does really support and validate the positive impact that these strategies have on student learning. So when we talk about the high-impact strategies for pre-K through elementary, We want to look at the first block there. It says, talk with your child as much as possible. This is something that all parents can do. It may seem really basic and simplistic. However, we do know that there are different levels of conversations and different ways to talk to your children, different ways to explain things, telling stories about the past and future have been proven to be the most impactful. So it's really telling parents how to talk with your children. The second block there talks about seeking brain-building activities for your child, because we know learning happens anytime, anywhere. And we really want parents to make it a fun thing, be creative with that. Also making it age appropriate is very, very important. So we know that we wouldn't necessarily do the same type of activities with our preschooler as we would with our fourth grader. So making that aware for the parents. Thirdly, read with your child. This doesn't have to be at bedtime or a storybook. It could be a magazine or a newspaper. What we really want to do is to making sure that the parent is giving the child the desire to want to read and the love of books. Even if parents don't feel comfortable themselves reading, we know some parents may not read, may not know how to read, may not know the language. However, we do encourage the parent to go through the book, look at the pages, tell stories.
There's also a lot of research that you can read to your child in any language, and it will help them with their literacy in school.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. But also, what's really important, aside from just reading to your child, and something that we really emphasize and something that we really practice in our parent outreach and engagement department when we're working with parents, is telling parents how to read to their children. What things do you look for? What questions to ask? So that's also very, very important. Whoops. So the second set of high-impact home strategies, we're going to look at the middle and high school level. And again, I want to say that these strategies are based also on research that Nancy Hill out of Harvard has conducted. And we also want to mention that our staff, the parent outreach and engagement staff, has been trained by Dr. Hill. So the first block talks about communication with the school and with the teachers, about your students' progress. Again, this is very, very important and very critical that parents are talking to their teachers and to the school, making sure that they're finding out if my child is on the right track for their A through G requirements, what their grades look like, what about AP courses. All of that is very, very important. Secondly, we want to support your student to become independent in and out of school, and mainly because we want our children to be able to make good quality decisions about their future. And lastly, talk with your child about how their learning and education connects to their future. You know, it's really not enough now to just tell your children or talk to your children about going to college, that you're going to go to college, you're going to do this. We really have to point out and lay out the steps for them to get there. What does it take for the child to get to college? So that's something we're really talking to parents about, and we know how important that is because that connects to their future. What you do now is going to affect your success in the future. Okay, and this slide reflects how the high-impact home strategies actually are aligned with in all the areas of the district's learning cycles. And these cycles, the learning cycles that our principals and teachers are trained in. So this is really important because it gives the schools an opportunity to integrate what the principals and the teachers have learned with what parents are learning, and learning and doing at home to support their student. So the work is really intertwined and reinforced both at school and at home. The connection is really important in the academic success of students, and I do want to emphasize that our work with the parents in the Parent Outreach and Engagement Department is aligned with the learning that takes place in the classroom. I'll give you an example of that. When students were working on the new Common Core curriculum, well, at the same time, the Parent Outreach and Engagement Department were conducting workshops with parents on the Common Core curriculum. So the parents were knowing what was happening at the school site, what their student was studying. So again, if you look at this slide, at the very top row, the boxes show the learning cycles. The middle row of boxes actually show the high-impact home strategies for pre-K through elementary and how it aligns to the learning cycles. The last row of boxes shows the high-impact home strategies for middle and high school and how they are aligned to the professional development learning cycles. Okay, we're going to go back to that one slide I mentioned to you first. That's what I'm going to come back to. Excuse me. So, how are we going to empower families and schools with the high-impact home strategies? So what we're proposing is by training schools, community partners, parents, parent leaders with the high home impact strategies, and also for those parent leaders really play a very crucial role in this. We see parent leaders as actually the ones that are going out, teaching the strategies to other parents. And also, we want to develop family networks. Families are connected to each other and to schools. When people are connected to each other, they are better informed and therefore more empowered. We actually did a parent leader training at Crawford, the Crawford Connection, and we had a very diverse group of parents that we trained. We just trained them on one strategy. You know, you are parent leaders. So this one strategy we're going to train you on, we want you to go out and talk to other parents and build that network. Also, another one of our parent programs called Project Ujima, we have what we call parent mentors in that program. And they're like ambassadors that actually go out and spread the message to other parents about how they can support your children, your student at home and in school. So we know that this is a very good model because we've seen it firsthand and we know that it works. We also want to make sure that we have some online resources for our parents. A lot of our parents can't get out to the workshops, or just sometimes you just want to be able to go to the computer, to the website, pick up some information. So we also want to make the resources available online. Also, we want to make sure that if we have schools or parents that need a little bit of extra support, that we have things in place for them as well. So for instance, if there's a school that says, well, we need a little bit more support than just what we have at the school site, maybe the family and the community engagement department could step in and help and provide that extra support. Okay, so this slide I really like. So this is Grow Family Networks and Leaderships, and you see it says each one, reach one, teach one. Now, I don't know if this originated at Bayview Baptist Church, but that's my church, and that's where I heard it, so that's why I'm saying it, so I like the same. So this is the concept that we're talking about. So if you see this little snowflake here, you see the purple people in the middle, these would be what we would call our parent leaders. So these parent leaders are talking to 2 or 3 other parents, and then those parents talk to 3 or 4 or 5 other parents, and we just grow and grow this network. Okay, so what we, growing family networks and leaderships, what we plan to do is continue to grow and offer parent leadership training opportunities for parents serving in leadership roles. We have lots of wonderful parents that are out there working at the school sites and the district level, and we want to grow the number of parents participating in leadership training and assuming leadership roles. So we will continue to provide that training for our parents. And we want to grow relationships among families, the community organizations, from PTAs, parent groups, foundations, and we can list all of our parent advisory councils and SSCs and site governance teams. So we want to continue to grow that support. Now, all clusters have a green team comprised of teachers and support staff who work with the area superintendents to support the schools. With this framework, we are proposing and recommending adding family engagement staff to these green teams. It would just make this so complete, this team. So that's one of our proposals. The family engagement staff that would be added to these teams would be made up of teachers, classified positions, and also community assistants. And what it really is all about, it's really about finding the right people to do the work. So it's really a search for the right people. And with our current staff, the Parent Outreach and Engagement Department, one thing that we envision with that staff is actually moving some of that staff to those green teams to be a part of that family engagement team. So the teams would be responsible for supporting schools and the principal and parent engagement. It would not be their responsibility to take over the work at the school site, but to facilitate and build capacity at each school site. Yes, please. Okay. Also, another piece of, I call it the slice of the dimension, is collect data, and we're doing that through an annual family engagement survey. So all schools would engage in a family engagement survey. And we would hope that the area superintendents would take the lead on that. And from that survey, whatever information is gathered from the results of that survey, each school will actually take that to design their own family engagement based on the results from the survey. We want this to be flexible because we know that schools are different, clusters are different, there's different needs, and so we want to make the plan where the school can actually adapt it to their own individual needs.
Thank you, Anita. As the state continues to implement LCFF and the LCAP, we understand that there will be some kind of a written plan, perhaps even including parent engagement. So our thoughts are that in this systemic framework that we help schools develop an engagement plan. We don't have anything that's tied right now at schools. We have the single site plan for student achievement, but that's really more of a compliance issue, you know. It's not, and it has a couple of activities, but we believe that this plan would be really tailored to each school, and it might even be a whole cluster plan. But the idea is to have some kind of a blueprint that tells you this is what our families need and this is how we're going to accomplish it together. We would encourage that it's around the 4 dimensions, and again, everything that we are supporting is aligned not only to the LCAP but also to federal and state requirements, of which we have a very large component of requirements for Title I programs. So where do we begin? Because this is a lot of work. Okay. Anything you do something new that's systemic, we know that everything's not going to change immediately. That's going to be implemented in time. So this is what we are proposing: the steps at the schools and the clusters. That schools can begin by identifying the networks and resources in their cluster, the way many of our current clusters have. That our team that we bring together on the green team will then train other staff, parent leaders to lead the design thinking process. We saw that happen beautifully at Taft Middle School. We also plan to, as Anita had mentioned in her presentation, is to identify those family leaders at schools or clusters and additional family leaders and train them to touch every single parent with the high impact home strategies. The online learning is a very critical component because there are many kids who are successful whose parents rarely step on campus. So we need to find a way to also engage those families. It's about piloting the survey with a few schools in the fall of 2016, but definitely piloting, having the survey for all schools on the spring of 2017. We have done an analysis of different surveys, and right now the report sits on the superintendent's desk so that she can look at the analysis and then recommend which of the surveys that we believe that we will implement at our schools. And then, of course, the plan. So next steps for our department. First of all is to rename the department to reflect the reorganization. Across the country, we no longer use the word parent involvement. We're moving away from parent engagement and moving to family engagement. Engagement really encompasses any adults, whether within a child's family, at school, in the community, that's helping those children be successful in school. A very key component of this framework is to hire an executive director to lead this work at cabinet level. And this is very important because it is the instructional cabinet level that really sets the core priorities for this district. And if we have a person that are focusing on parent engagement, as we're talking about what kind of professional development do teachers need, what kind of supports do students need. Unfortunately, we forget to ask that question, what do our families need and how do we make it available for them? So this executive director position is very important. It is not to replace the position that I currently hold, and which I will leave in 43 days, okay, when I retire. I am counting the days. But there's a lot of, I want you to think about this framework as implementing any new program in this district where you have to have the supports to make it really happen. And Board Member Barrera, you and I have had numerous conversations about the importance of having the vision for parent engagement or family engagement, and I really believe that this is the framework that can help us get to that point. It's investing in new staff and adding some of our current staff to build the capacity. It's about training for the first time in this district, systemically, principals and school staff to work with families. We have done an excellent job of training our parents and parent leaders and how to work with us educators, but we need to invest time in training our principals as well. We've already talked about the survey. It's about the next point is having a district committee of all the central office departments that have some kind of responsibility on parent engagement. We don't talk to each other. We don't even align our efforts. And I believe that if we work together, whether it's the new LGBTQ department, whether it's the Office of Language Acquisition, the District Advisory Committee, the office that works with Title I, it's counseling department, anyone that has a priority on families, if we work together and perhaps even combine some of our resources, that we can really provide some great leadership training and supports to our families. Number 6 is, and this is something that we hear over and over from our parents and parent leaders, it's about some committee that we put together with parents, community, and staff to give input and assist with the direction of the framework. This, we heard it over and over again. We held, Alina and I conducted 3 meetings with parent leaders to talk about the framework. And we also received numerous emails, and we also got a lot of input. And this is one area, along with parent leadership, that really families want to know. They want to help us make decisions. They want to be true partners. They want to be truly respected. So though we feel that we do this well, we probably have to have some deep conversations on how that can look with families. And the last component is about training many departments on design thinking process. So our department will lead the effort. It's not ours, but it is ours to help others build their capacity to work with clusters in schools. We need to spend time developing the high-impact home strategies. We need to have a web page that has a person that knows how to put webinars and online training, which we don't have an individual at this point, but that's something to consider. We've talked about having some kind of a family engagement plan. And the last 2 points are very important because change is very difficult. And my department knows that we have to work differently. And that is about reorganizing the current staff that we have in our programs, keeping some key programs that have really make an impact with families, and also reallocating some of the costs that we have to support the framework. And so before I let you ask some questions, I did want to just mention a couple of things that I think when I brought together all of the comments I got from families, there were 2 things that I really believe that you need to really think about this as a board and as a district, is that leadership sets the tone for family engagement. So that parents felt that it's really critical that the person that becomes this executive director is a person that is rooted in this community, that has experience working with families across all districts, a person that is a good listener, a person that is going to be neutral and try to bridge schools and families. And I believe that Elnita and I have had a really good relationship with our parent leaders, because I can tell you that we're friends with them and they're friends with us, and you know that sometimes that's not easy, but that's because I believe of the kind of relationship of trust that we have built with our family leaders, and I believe that's the kind of executive director that we need. And this will be the first time that we have ever had a search for a person in this capacity. The first program manager for this department back in 1989 was appointed. I was appointed in 2009. So I think this is an opportunity for us to bring in parent leaders to help us sift through applications and help us sit as we interview the best person for this position. And the second thing that the parents really wanted me to share with you is that they believe for authentic partnership and collaboration with parents, that we as a district need to listen to parents, not just speak to them, to respect with them, but especially to work with them, and not just at design thinking events, but in every interaction, district level and site level. Okay, so
Thank you very much, Bea and Elnita. Such a beautiful presentation and vision for the framework going forward that's built on many, many years of your vision, your passion, your commitment, your relationships with our community. This just shows how to take everything that we already have and take it to the systemic level, which has been your heart's desire for many, many years. It's not new news to you, and you are laying out this framework and this vision. And for board members, for you to know, this is an information item, not an action item, so you don't have to direct doing all of this. We've already planned, the executive director and the teams. And no.
When do you anticipate that you'll be coming forward to the board with an action item?
This is part of the budget adoption process. It's part of the LCAP process. The recommendations that are in here, this is not news to me right now. This is, the team has been building this. We're building it into our LCAP, which is part of the budget adoption process. So very much in alignment with we know in order for this framework to go forward, these recommendations are fully supported by myself, our chief of staff, and the instructional cabinet, and they're part of our plans for next year, and you'll be able to take action on those. But we wanted you to hear the framework and hear the vision going forward this evening.
Okay, so then the board will be asked to vote on these kinds of initiatives and recommendations in May and early June?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We also have public testimony, and then we can have some additional board discussion. There's enough there are speakers to 2 minutes each. First person, Celeste Bubrick Ozaki, who's president of the PTA. I'm not sure she's here, but she did give us a letter, and I will read that on her behalf. So, dear, thank you so much. Dear school board members, I am writing on behalf of the San Diego Unified Council of PTAs to express support on elements on the framework for systemic family and community engagement presented by Beatriz Fernandez and Elnita Shannon. Elnita Shannon. First, let me remind you on the mission and values of PTA. The mission to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. Slogan, every child, one voice. Values, collaboration, commitment, accountability, respect, inclusivity, and integrity. I have had the privilege of working with the Parent Outreach and Engagement Department not only as a parent leader for the past few years, but also attended classes offered through the department as a parent. I've worked closely with the department to provide support to school sites that are using the School Smarts Parent at Academy program, which SDUSD has partially funded. I have become familiar with the various projects that have implemented as well as tapped into their expertise in family and community engagement. The underlying concept of the framework involves empowering stakeholders to ultimately have a positive impact on student learning outcomes, which align well with the mission of PTA. I am encouraged by the idea to utilize tools to empower clusters to identify their needs, leading to collaborative approaches to developing solutions. Community and family engagement will not happen overnight and requires a thoughtful plan to involve collaborative partners whom ultimately can have a positive impact on student learning and growth. I am encouraged by the outline of the plan that includes building family networks and leadership, which the San Diego Unified Council of PTAs can be a partner of. The San Diego Unified School District has taken steps to recognize the importance of family engagement, which is evidenced by the goal in a Vision 2020 plan, as well as in the conversations revolving around a robust investment model. However, the goals are not as clearly defined in the LCAP. With the implementation of the proposed framework, I am optimistic with the interdepartmental collaboration along with partnering with invested community partners such as PTA, we can discover and realize the true potential of every child in our schools, the San Diego Unified School District. Sincerely, Celeste. Other speakers, we have Amani Robinson and Frank Simbakakis, Lorraine Burley, Michael Snyder, Tamara Hurley, Barbara Flannery, Susie Reed, and we'll start with Amani.
Bonnie's not here.
Amani's not here. Going once, twice. Frank,
She was
you're
here
on.
earlier.
All right. I'm Frank Simbukakis, and I'm holding your flyer. I use glasses so I can see 2020. And what I read here, it says the district will facilitate ongoing communication with parents. Obviously, it's not happening in most areas. It does happen in Scripps Ranch. It does happen in La Jolla. It happens in better areas, and you saw it tonight with the awards. And I'm sure Kevin Beiser sees it because it's part of his district. It says the district will facilitate communication with the broader community. If you guys facilitated such communication, you would know that Dingman, an overcrowded elementary school, has an amazing little think-a-bit-like program where kids in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade are taught how to write code, and it's not some system that costs a lot of money. There are parents that are sharp and volunteer, and they're in there doing it. I'm not sure you guys know that this exists. She said something wise. There is right now no communication between the parties, and we need to facilitate communication. Okay? Different clusters have different abilities and capabilities, so you got to focus where you need it. But first of all, you have to communicate with that community. Just like it happened in January when Mr. McQuarrie and Kevin came, we can talk about the school issue. I wish all 5 of you would come up there, all 6 of you, and we would welcome you and the community, and they can express, their thoughts. It's a very, very well-run community. You should change also on the district will facilitate communication with elected leaders at all levels. Make it with community leaders, because I think our community leaders, people like Ilko, Wally, they do bigger job and they're not running for any election, so they don't owe anyone anything. So I welcome you to come to Scripps Ranch, set it up, and come up there and see what the community offers, and then use that as a role model for the rest. I raised 2 kids. They went to Marvin, Lewis, Jerabec, Marshall, and Scripps Ranch High School. So I've seen the schools on kind of both sides, and we do it right. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Lorraine Hurley, followed by Michael Snyder.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Lorraine Burley. I'm a Scripps Ranch parent, a family member, and I'm also a community leader. Thanks, Frank, for not saying my name. And I want to talk to you today about the Scripps Ranch parent and family engagement that we feel it's been treated as a checkoff box. The district came out to our community to solicit ideas for a real estate development plan. Staff had no follow-up meetings. Staff only came back 1 year later and said, this is what you get. When staff was met with overwhelming community dissatisfaction, the district was unwilling to modify the plan. The district then presented to the board and indicated that they did community stakeholder outreach, but never presented what the community had said about the proposal, that there was overwhelming opposition, and the board voted to move forward, creating continued community opposition and widespread animosity among the district and the board. This could have worked out better. After the initial input the developer had been chosen, the community and the developer and the district could have collaborated and created a mutually beneficial concept with the Scripps Ranch community groups assisting with the outreach for engagement. The end result, there could have been a quality real estate development plan supporting community and creating a positive relationship with the school district. I request that you cancel the current real estate development plan in Scripps Ranch and work to engage the several community groups to find a mutually satisfactory solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura. Michael Snyder, followed by Tamara Hurley.
Well, good evening, Mr. President, board members, and Superintendent Martin. I think I've spoken on this subject even recently. And I didn't think there was a way I could actually miss tonight not speaking about this. The question had been asked before, what makes a leader within a community? And there's a couple of points I wanted to make about what we're doing in the Madison cluster and in Claremont as it regards to this measure tonight. And I definitely support the work as we're moving forward. First of all, the three main words: partnership, collaboration, and dialogue. We started a grassroots effort several years ago where principals were willing to sit down and talk with community members and not at them. And community members at that point started to realize that these really were neighborhood schools at that point. So that's really where this started to grow. At the same time, and I think even more importantly, and I do understand that there needs to be a plan within the district regarding this, and certainly regarding to LCAP, that we need a specific plan, but you're going to be dealing with 16 different communities, and even within those communities themselves, you're going to have different viewpoints, even to the point of what exactly is parent engagement. And so in the Madison cluster, we looked at it, what was our way of doing it, and we just went to work. And at that point, we just started to talk with each other, parent to parent, parent to principal, teacher to parent. And even just in the last several weeks, and for some reason they seem to feel that they need to include me on emails as they're dealing with each other, but I see problems being resolved. I see people talking to each other and parents actually feeling like they're engaged with their school. So please, as you move forward with this, that remember that you're dealing with 16 different communities, 16 different ways of doing things. So you have to definitely build in flexibility and allow these communities to build what will be their own plans and moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for your service. Tamara Hurley, followed by Barbara Flannery, and then Susie Reed.
Hi, I'm Tamara Hurley, for those of you who don't know me already. I started my parent engagement in this district 13 years ago by organizing an incoming kindergarten playgroup, and I never looked back. I've been involved ever since. And along the way, I've seen parent engagement from the classroom level all the way to the state level. And I see it as a huge untapped potential, largely at every level. And from my experience, I've identified steps that are key to effective, meaningful parent engagement, and I've seen the missteps that derailed this process. And I've outlined some of those on the handout, and I won't go through it in detail, but Mike just touched on it. It's a grassroots, bottom-up process. That's what's effective. It's respecting and truly listening to parents and communities to understand their issues and collaborating with them to find a plan to address the issue. And it's then following through by implementing that plan. And then coming back and reevaluating to see, did that plan work? And if not, let's go back and work on it again. It sounds a lot like the design thinking process, but it doesn't require you to get the whole cluster involved and call it design thinking. I mean, it can be every single interaction, from the parent with the teacher over the homework load to the problem with bullying at the school. It's everything. It's not one giant cluster process. It's every day. I've outlined, and I do expect you to please read the bullets on where it gets derailed, and you can see examples within this district of how it typically gets derailed. And that's usually the top-down directed, and Mike addressed that. Allow for flexibility. Don't tell us how we should do it. And when I hear we're going to train parents on the high-impact home plans, and we're going to train parents. I mean, I just hear top-down, and I wonder, how are we going to engage them in a way that doesn't sound like we're telling you what you should do at home? The proposal tonight, I was concerned because it's really only the bottom rung of what I see a ladder of parent engagement. It doesn't touch on all the thousands of parents who are further up that ladder, which examples include everything from classroom volunteers to school site councils. I've listed quite a few. And I think just in the final statement, I want to agree with B on her last comments as far as engaging leadership within this district to help facilitate this process. Don't think you can bring somebody in and say, here's your new executive director, or here's your parent liaison in your cluster, and make that work. They have to have buy-in. For parents to have buy-in, they have to be involved from the bottom of the process, and leadership sets the tone. It really does. So thank you.
Thank you, Tamara. Barbara Flannery, followed by Susie Reed.
Okay, so you called my name already. I was in the district 10 years before I discovered the parent engagement department, and it was like being in Shangri-La, like that unknown land, and it's actually still unknown to many people in the district. The department's amazing, and everyone is knowledgeable and really, really passionate about their work. Parents are welcome no matter what their level of school participation, and parents are encouraged, get involved, and leaders are given more skills. Isolated, the department has grown organically to fill the needs of all the communities that it serves. Now parent engagement is in the limelight, or family engagement, and the challenge becomes, how does the department grow gracefully and stay true to its mission? My hope is that the wonderful members of this department are a driving element in this change, because a top-down approach could lead to disaster. And what part do parent leaders play in this development? Are we participants or are we spectators? How this plays out has much to do with who fills the cabinet level position. The parent engagement plan needs to engage, not disengage the parents. Thank you.
Barbara. Susie.
Good evening, board president and trustees, and our superintendent. Nice to see you guys. To start off, my name is Susie Reed, and I'm the DAC chair newly this year, and I have actually had the opportunity to see these ladies in action, and I am going to miss you, because even the principal at Ocean Beach Elementary today was talking to me about how he remembers when B was talking about how to engage parents and whether you need to do this for an ELAC, and you gotta, but it's nice that he's a principal and that was something he experienced as a teacher and he still remembers that. So you've left in a great mark, and I hope with this that that's not gonna end, that mark was gonna keep going. So the one thing that I looked at and I want to draw everyone's attention to is at the bottom of every single slide it says building the conditions to empower each and every family to support their students' learning. And so we might be starting on the bottom, but I see it as a building process, and I see it as a process that could be phenomenal in getting parents engaged because it's so important. We need to survey our parents this year. I don't want to wait. I don't think we should wait. And if you have that report on your desk, then Cindy, I hope you are going to be reading it soon. The high-impact home strategies, can we start putting them on billboards around the city? Yeah. Honestly, if we want to engage our parents and tell them how they can engage their kids and engage the school, I think that's the way to go. It could be like a PSA for the teachers. We need to have, just start doing it. I think I see some stuff going in the LCAP that I really like, and we just need to start breaking down barriers to help parents feel more comfortable talking to teachers, talking to administrators. The green team idea of a family engagement person is excellent, and I think that is something we should absolutely do, and I think that clusters will benefit from it, school sites will benefit from it, and also bridging the gap with our parent leaders who are already here. I'm in a room full of them every single month at the DAC, so you've got a lot of people to choose from. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Superintendent, board comments? Yeah. Trustee Barrera, Vice President Barrera.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, listen, I just want to thank and I hope we can just have a moment of appreciation for B. Fernandez. I mean, just an incredible. So I know that this is work that is building and ongoing, but this also represents a legacy that you're leaving this district with. This strategic framework around empowering every parent in the district, if we follow through on the vision that you're laying out tonight, I believe this is an historic breakthrough in the public education system. I mean, we've talked about it in this district. You've advocated it, for it for so long. But beyond just sort of giving lip service to the idea that parents are an important part of, students' education, to actually put an infrastructure in place across an entire public education system is unbelievable, and it does require us to think in different ways from what we've done before. But I think there's 3 elements for me that stand out about the strategic framework that creates a lot of optimism that this is something that we can follow through on. The first is that those high-impact home strategies are so doable. They're so doable, and we know that we've got to work with communities in different ways. We've got so many different diverse communities in our district, and the ways that families work in homes with kids. We know that we've got to be culturally competent in the way that we work with families. But those strategies, I think they represent a breakthrough because we're not asking parents to do something that feels overwhelming, right? I mean, we all of us, we've talked, as parents. I mean, if you ask me to help my kid with his calculus homework, good luck. But if you ask me to talk to my kid about, what's going on at school and, how what he's doing now relates to his future, I can do that. And I can certainly have meaningful conversations with my kids, and where it's possible, I can read to my kids and I can talk to my kids in the language and in the culture that's comfortable in our family, and so having doable, high impact strategies just creates so much cause for optimism because we can do this. The second piece of this that I just think is so critical is a deep appreciation for community and for the way that we as a public agency, as a school system, work with our communities. And again, it's not lip service that we say, well, the community is important. We're actually developing capacity in our district to partner in a meaningful way with communities. And what I certainly recognize in this set of strategies is the absolute best traditions of community organizing. It's about developing leaders who themselves can go out, the each one, teach one, reach one is that's community organizing. I mean, that's it's a leadership role for parents who get more involved and more engaged to be central, to this strategy, and it's an understanding, I think, of the way that we as a school district depend on and can partner with communities that's based on a tradition of real success. And then the third, aspect of this is the integration with the instructional program. Brilliant, the way that we connect, the way that you connect the high impact home strategies to the learning cycles, the professional development cycles. Just brilliant. And making sure that the person that we hire is a member of the instructional cabinet. And then that, of course, translates to working with every principal and every teacher and every classified staff member, every educator in our schools, that this is a part of the work of educating our kids, is working with our families around these strategies. So it's the integration of the work with families with the instructional strategies that makes it feel like it's not just something, and this is your point, B, that you've been making, and Alnita, that you've been making for so long. It's not something off to the side. that's sort of separate from the core of what we do as a district. It's integrated into the core, and that, along with the deep understanding of the way that we can successfully work with the community and high-impact strategies that are doable and I believe will grow confidence in parents, that creates a framework that feels that we can succeed in this. So again, Elnita, thank you for your incredible work, for years and years, and the work that you've done to put this strategic framework together. Allison, thank you for the contribution that you've made, to our district, this year. And B, again, it's a gift that you're leaving to not only our district, but to, I think, public education in this country. So thank you again for your service.
Yes, I want to thank Ms. Fernandez also. I think one of the things that's commendable is you've operated this great program, and one of the things we felt as a board, there's this great program that reaches a certain percentage of our district, and a huge percentage was left out. And when people are used to doing things a certain way, they kind of get used to that. And the fact that you were able actually to lead some of this effort to transform what you're doing, to really multiply by the effect, not just by continuing to do what you were doing, but seeing what could be done across the district. And I think Richard always looks over my notes because I wrote down lip service here. We always give a lot of lip service to parent involvement, parent engagement. It's so important. It's so important to be involved in your kid's school. But what does that really mean? In terms of is it showing up at a school fair? Is it buying a ticket to something? Is it sitting down and reading with your child? Is it regular communication with the teacher? And I think one of the things that we said on the board at the beginning of this year was, since Superintendent Martin became superintendent, there was a real engagement of all of the active, involved parents across the district. They were really listened to, participated. There were Vision 2020 workshops and so forth where hundreds of people participated, but we have thousands and thousands of parents. And one of the things we said was, we want that all of the parents to feel ownership of the school, that this is really our school, that we really are participating in this. And that's what we want to get to. And I think one of the things we need to keep in mind in terms of this department and executive director and so forth is, obviously we don't want to create another bureaucracy. The whole point is, and I think it was a good point made by a speaker too about the whole training issue, which can be very top-down. We're going to train you to do this and train you to do that. But we really want to facilitate, and I think it's really mostly repurposing our current resources as much as we can around this effort, so that just like you've done with others in language acquisition and other areas, and really having them working closely with the area superintendents, have the ELSTs going across the district, the same sort of thing, that if we have just a small core of people who are really facilitating and supporting this work, so that the people who are really doing it are the teachers and the principals, and the teachers are saying this is our school, the principals are saying this is our school. And I think part of this is having, we talk about high expectations for our students, but we need to have high expectations for our teachers. And I always say, no one just drops the kid off at the corner to go to by the pediatrician's office and says, go on in and have him check you out, her, and then let me know how you're doing. But we do kind of have that at the schools, and part of it is that we don't expect as much of the parents sometimes, and they don't necessarily know what to do. And finally, what I think would be helpful, even at this ground level, would be to find 2 or 3 schools that have really amazing parent participation. And these schools can be in any area of the city. I know there are a lot of stereotypes about parents of certain types of schools don't have time to be involved because they work 2 or 3 jobs, but yet we have parents in other neighborhoods who travel on business all the time and are not that involved with their children. There are problems all over the place in terms of that. But finding 2 or 3 schools where there is really broad participation by the parents, that there's a real feeling across the community that this is our school, that the parents are very tuned in to exactly how their kids are doing, and the teachers and so forth. So that when I say this is our school, one of the things we've been working on in the district with staff, teachers, principals, and everybody is this is our district. Because we talk about the district, what's the district doing versus we are all part of the district. The same sense, I send my kid to that school versus this is our school. And I think if we could see, that's basically a priest of inquiry we've talked about before, which is this is where it's already very successful. This is where parents are really involved in turning out. And what is it about this school that's making that happen so that we can get that going in other schools? Again, I think the whole point is we're facilitating rather than building a bureaucracy or something like that. So thanks a lot for all of your work.
See Sharon Whitehurst-Payne.
I too want to commend you all for your work because it's fabulous, really. The whole framework of not just engaging, and I'm going to go beyond, not just only engaging parents, but I like the recognition of family and community, because today there are a lot of grandparents and others who are raising children, and there's not that recognition. They always have to say, well, I'm the grandmother or I'm the great-grandmother, and feel like they're not a part of. Whereas if you just say family, then it could be a cousin, an aunt, or whoever it is who would come in, CASAs even, who could come in as a part of that support for children in that nurturing and support process. And I like your idea about those stellar communities. In fact, I talked earlier about the 5 sisters in the Morse cluster, the sister schools. One of them is doing well with that component. Have them to model with the others to bring them on board, because basically they're in the same community, and allow them to lead the way with this kind of structure that you've put in place. So I want to commend you guys for doing a great job. And thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Trustee Beiser.
I want to thank so many members of Subdistrict B for coming out this evening and sticking around to comment and share their ideas, because it's involved parents and family members like them that I think B and the team are thinking about and talking about it. I know as an educator there is a mountain of research that shows that when parents and family members have a presence on a school campus, all students achieve at higher levels. It doesn't have to be in the classroom. A parent can just come and walk around at lunchtime once a week or once a month. Just having adults on the campus makes a big difference. And a part of that, obviously, from your last slide, it talks about do we facilitate that at the school site level? Are parents made to feel welcome when they do come? To see how things are going and to volunteer? Do we solicit, do we encourage and invite members of the community and family members to come to the campuses and help out or hang out during any time of the day or after school or before school? There is a huge need in every school in your neighborhood. You don't have to be you don't have to have a child at the school. You could be a retired individual, a retired teacher, anybody in the community that just wants to pitch in and help out once in a while. And all those folks are very welcome. I really appreciate the work that that's coming to the board, and I look forward to the opportunity to vote on the action for implementation, in line with the budget and the LCAP goals that we'll be looking at for action later. And B, Fernandez, it has been a pure pleasure working with you over the last 5-6 years, and I wish you the best in retirement. And hope you'll come back and volunteer once in a while.
I am. I'm actually going to work with Barbara Flannery and help establish PTAs in areas where families need a lot of help.
Yeah, thank you. That would be really, really a big help for those families. Thank you.
Yeah, I too want to acknowledge Alina and B and Allison for the work that you're doing and will continue to do. We know that our goal is to have quality schools in every neighborhood. And in order to do that, we also know that we have to have quality neighborhoods around every school. And putting those two together is really what you're talking about here. It's the parent, now family and community engagement, where we involve our family members and our community partners that include our businesses and community leaders to make a significant difference. If we want to have quality schools, we need to expand our capacity. And that capacity is going to take us working together, understanding the importance of respect, importance of what you said earlier of listening and engaging and working together. And I think we're ready to do that. We look forward to the formal proposal that we can discuss and take action. Thank you so much.
Dr. McCoy, I have a few things to say before we close out this item. So first of all, recognizing the work, what it took to get to where we are tonight, I would like to say thank you on behalf of the entire team to Allison Rowland and the work that you've done this year. We presented a challenge to you, and you then led that challenge by engaging many stakeholders, and that was evidenced today when we had a farewell reception for you, a luncheon. The people who came, the community members, the parents, the school police chief, I mean, people just kept walking in, and I realized how many people you touched in the work that you did, that this was something that you took on with your full heart, and you gave your full self to this district and to this community, and we are forever grateful for that contribution. So with that, we have some flowers to present to you tonight.
Photo.
Dog over there.
Richard already thanked you, B. We already gave you the much-deserved standing ovation, but I want to say more about who you are and what you've meant to this district for over 38 years of contribution and service. That you sort of gave it away a few minutes ago when you said 40-something more days in your retirement. So we're going to take a moment now to talk about you and your gifts and your contributions and who you are and what you've meant. So this is the facts about B. Do you all know that B has trained more than 8,000 educators and parents in the state of California since 2004? 8,000. She's been a teacher and educator in San Diego Unified, starting her career as a teacher at Balboa Elementary School in 1980, and then in 1985 she was recognized as the Elementary Teacher of the Year. Starting her very long career of contribution and service. She's worked in the area of parent involvement ever since then. Obviously, we know her as the program manager for Parent Outreach and Engagement Department since 2009, but you're so much more than that title in that department. You've given your whole self in such beautiful ways. You've given back to the beloved Latino community as a fourth-generation Mexican-American. You've been the first in your extended family to graduate from a university. And for 10 years, you chaired the San Diego Adelante Mujer Latina Conference for high school girls as a role model. And their mother, you worked at the White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for Hispanic Americans, and you chaired the group MANA, a national Latina organization headquartered in Washington, D.C. Beautiful contributions to your community, to our community. You're a national leader. You are recognized nationally across this country on parent engagement, and that's evidenced by your being a national faculty member at Yale University's Child Study Center and Dr. James P. Comer's School Development Program. You've been a consultant for the Center for Family School Community Engagement and the California Parent Center at San Diego State University, right here in our own backyard. So you give not here just locally, but nationally, and of course an adjunct professor in teacher education at UC San Diego. You have absolutely built a legacy that many generations of families and children will benefit from. We will continue to benefit with this framework that you've laid out. And the sign of a true leader is the legacy that they leave behind. That we know that when leaders leave something, things improve and they get better because of what they've done. You've always said that. You taught me that as a young principal at Central. Came and gave me advice about our community and what it takes, and that our families, not just here, but across the world, will benefit from your legacy legacy and what you've done. You have contributed as far away as places in China, but you also know right here at home, San Diego is a better place because of you and your contribution and your selfless service to our children. So I have...
Thank you. As a parent, I know a lot of parents here have said that they came to, as a parent like 10 years ago. Well, I got to tell you that I started as I was a college student, and I needed childcare. So my son was 3 years old, and he went to Montezuma Children's Center. Yes. And that 3-year-old is now 43 years old, right there. He graduated from, he was supposed to graduate from San Diego High School IB program. Life happens, and he graduated from Morris High School. And he is a math teacher. He started here in San Diego and now is at Otay Ranch High School along with his wife. And so I am really happy as a parent at the education that my child received in this district. Just excellent public education. As an employee, I had to thank the board. I don't know if you know that you invested over $50,000 plus in my professional development. From 1990 to 2000, I did go twice a year to Yale University to facilitate the Comer model. And what I learned there was about how important it was to build relationships. And then my job when I came back here was to work myself out of a job. And as you mentioned, I think that's what I've done. Okay? I am leaving a great department. There are a few here that, if you guys would just stand up a little bit, a few that still stayed here. The parents, leaders are really concerned that I was leaving because what's going to happen. I said, don't worry. I said, I have Elnita, I've got Lori, Derry. I've got some really good people that are going to keep the torch, and they're going to help an executive director, and they're going to help that program manager. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for this life that I have, and I'm going to focus on healthy living, travel, and volunteering, and that little boy's classroom as when he starts TK next year, because I could not do that for my son because I was working. But again, thank you so much for your kind words. Thank you for your support in this, and I'm not going to wait. I'm just going to work on my own time. Okay? Thank you for the beautiful flowers. Tabi, everybody.